Two Rivers Talks is brought to you by Two Rivers Biz Starts. Also by Two Rivers Main Street. And by Raleigh Point Economic Advising. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Two Rivers Talks with Todd and Darla. I would be the Todd half of that equation, and my friend here in the shared screen is Darla. Hi, Darla. How are you?
I'm great. Wax on, wax off.
Very good, very good. And if you're joining us here for the first time, Two Rivers Talks is your connection for all things related to the city of Two Rivers in Two Rivers, Wisconsin. If you're from Two Rivers, used to be from Two Rivers, or thinking about moving to Two Rivers, this is where you're going to learn about all of the fun, news, music, arts, anything cool that's going on in and around our beautiful community. Welcome. We're glad you're here. And today, we're going to do things a little bit differently. Normally we have a guest on, but this time we're going to kind of split ourselves in half. And I'm going to interview Darla about an upcoming event at the art gallery that she runs. Basil Ishkabibble's Art Gallery is located right in the downtown of Two Rivers. And you've got a big event coming up, I understand. We're going to be talking a little bit about Spittin Image, not spitting, but Spittin Image.
That's right.
2020. It's a portrait challenge, and her fascinating interview with this year's model, Manitowoc County's own Ms. Dolly Stokes. So we're really eager to hear about that. So without further ado, let's talk a little bit about Spittin Image 2020. So as I mentioned, Basil Ishkabibble is located in the heart of downtown Two Rivers on Washington Street. And that's the big street going down the middle of the town. And hopefully, I say the worst of the pandemic crisis will be behind us soon. The number of people coming to the gallery will be back to normal. Is it recovering? How are things going for you?
Who would have thought that compared to last year at this time, that we would be ahead of the game this year?
Really?
Even with being closed for 3 months, the foot traffic has been phenomenal. And I think that's attributable to the fact that a lot of people, both in the state of Wisconsin and outside of Wisconsin, primarily like Minnesota and Illinois, and also beyond that, there's a lot of people who had planned on going, let's say, to Mexico or the UK or Europe for the summer for their summer trip, and of course that was squashed, and they are making their way to Two Rivers. And I've had people who were born and raised like in Green Bay, Appleton, Sheboygan area who have never been here to Two Rivers. Funny story, I had a lady who was from the Appleton area, and it was really funny because one of her questions to me, first of all, everybody loves our city. They are just amazed at how beautiful it is and what we have to offer. But this lady who grew up, this is in her backyard, had never been here, and she wanted to know, number one, how long has the lake been here, and have you always had a beach? And I'm glad that I'm wearing a mask these days because I couldn't help but laugh. It was
cute.
It was funny, but I think she was more like, how long have you had this beautiful groomed beach? But it's how long has the lake been here? And it's like eons.
A couple million years, I guess.
It was just cute.
That's really sweet.
But she was just gushing as to just how beautiful the beach was, that they've been spending a lot of time down there, with cobblestone opening up, a lot of foot traffic from there. So I've had a lot of people. So my business has rebounded. I've been very fortunate that way. So, at least there's some place for visitors to go. And it's not just Basil's, it's other places too, plus our natural resources.
Well, that's great news for the business, and that should help the upcoming events be that much more successful, right?
Yeah, there's going to be a lot more people who are going to be able to view the artwork than I had ever anticipated, and it's just been tremendous. But I do want to say that just a couple of days ago, I did have a young couple who had come in and they had a 9-month-old baby with them. They had just moved to the area, and the reason that they were able to pack up and move from Houston, Texas, and move to Two Rivers was because the husband, his job allowed him to do his job remotely. So
Oh,
here's
right.
a young family um, who can live anywhere they want and still and still retain employment. So that is the wave of the future. And I think one of the things that came out of COVID was the fact that employers now realize that they don't have to have all of their employees lumped under a roof. That
Mhm,
working
mhm.
from home, which has been done for a while, but I think was always kind of viewed with a little bit of suspicion or as um, a last alternative, might be the first alternative now. Um, and then also that same day, later in the day, I had another couple come in and they were closer to retirement age. He probably had maybe another 5, 6 years before he'd be able to retire. They were from out of state and they also moved to Two Rivers because it was possible for him to work from home. So
Mhm.
that's two couples in one day who are new residents and taking advantage of the technology. So I wanna see more of that.
That's great.
I was just blown away. I mean, you meet a lot of people from different walks of life and just some of the stories that they have to say and what their circumstances are, but you wouldn't believe the number of newcomers that I meet.
That's so great. That's really
Yeah.
neat. Well, and you're doing so much as an ambassador for the city just by promoting the arts in this area. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah,
Um,
this has, become something that I never expected.
yeah.
I was just gonna be a little gallery that was there primarily because, I have a lot of artist friends who had no place to show their work, and Two Rivers didn't have an art gallery, so, it kinda made sense. But this really has expanded into something that I never foresaw.
Well, that's the definition of innovation, right?
Oh, yeah.
You saw an opportunity in the market, and you brought something in that helped the community and is a viable business in and of itself. So
Oh, absolutely,
that's
and
perfect.
that really pleases me too because it's nice to hear you say that, that we're bringing something into the community, and I think part of that has to do with, like, last year's, Art in Central Park.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, in this year, 2020, we weren't able to have, the banners put up. We weren't able to do the program, but I'll tell you, 2021, look out because we are gonna have some more fantastic art up and around the community.
That's going to be so great.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of events, let's talk a little bit about Spittin Image 2020. What's the concept behind this event?
The concept is originally it was to be a timed event, and actually okay, and you were one of the judges last year.
I was, yes, and that was a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah, but, like, in comparison to what we'll be doing this year, and I'll get to that here in a second, last year, what it was is that we had a live model at the gallery, and the artists were able to come in, and they had 4 hours of creation time to do a portrait of the live model. And, it was 2 hours of painting, then you take a break, and then 2 more hours. Once the time was up, you put your brushes down. That was it. And, it was a juried selection as to who the winner was, and you were one of the jurors. And, but unfortunately, like this year, I can't have the artists and the model and all of the other people who are involved in this project all in the gallery. It's a very small space. It would be difficult for uh, the models to keep their masks on. It would be uncomfortable for everyone to do that. And even wearing them, it's just not prudent at this point in time to have people so close together in an enclosed space. So what I decided to do is, because I wasn't going to let this idea wither on the vine, I have to keep the momentum going, was to have a hybrid virtual event.
Hmm.
So what's going to happen is, and these are important dates to remember for all you artists out there, is that between tomorrow, which is August 25th, and hopefully this is dropped in time, but just remember August 25th through October 15th is a call to artists. October 16th and 17th is the artwork drop off. October 20th through November 19th is the artwork is going to be on display at Basil's, and then the artwork to be picked up after the end of the show. The difference between that is that everybody gets to have their art in the gallery for that month.
Hmm.
Um, Whereas last year it was the winner who was the only one who had their piece displayed. There's still going to be a grand prize winner, and they get $50. And uh, I'm kind of toying around with having some sort of a reception, because typically you have a reception with exhibits, and I might just do a virtual one.
Hmm.
So, but and everybody have your own wine at home, and we can all just get together and Zoom it. I don't know. I have some time to
Sure,
play
sure.
around with that.
Why not? That sounds
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. You know,
Yeah,
I there's been virtual cocktail parties and wine tastings,
yeah,
so
yeah.
why not a virtual reception?
Now, I got a question for you. So last year we had Mr. friend of the show, Mr. Noodleman, on, fantastic musician, and he sat for us and kind of plunked away at his guitar, during that time. Who's the subject this year?
We are so fortunate. Um, Artists in Manitowoc County will recognize the name Stokes, and that's mainly because of Ron Stokes, um, who was an artist in this area and passed away within the last 2 years, year and a half or so. But the name Stokes is also probably familiar to a lot of people in Manitowoc, because Dolly Stokes was an alderperson for, I think it was 18 years, and her district was, I don't know the number, but her district was along the lake shore, and it encompassed, the submarine, the badger, so she's known in her own right. So Dolly Stokes has, consented to be, our model this year,
Very nice.
and, she's such a treasure for this area, and just the stories that she has to tell, and just her vibe. I mean, she was ahead of her time, and it shows. And so she's gonna be our virtual model. And what I mean by that is that for the people who want to participate in Spittin Image this year, when they go to the prospectus online, there's a link, and it's gonna take them over to this episode, because after you and I are done talking, we're going to be showing the interview with Dolly.
Hmm.
And the
Hmm.
reason I wanted to do an interview with Dolly was so that the artist would be able to get a sense of her personality and to know her as a person, not just view the stills that will also be online that they can work from. Those are technicalities,
Yeah, yeah.
but get to know Dolly as a person, and I think her individuality is gonna come out in the portraits,
That's a great idea.
you know?
Wow. Yeah,
So this is evolved. Every day I get a new brainstorm as to what can I do to really make this,
yeah.
work.
Now,
And
what was it like to interview Dolly? What was your experience?
she's such a nice woman, and I had met her before. I didn't know her very well, but very amiable and very personable, and just her life has just been fascinating. She met her husband in art school. She was born and raised in Manitowoc, and this is all in the interview that'll be coming up after this. But she talks about her a little bit about her childhood and art school down in Milwaukee, and her experiences as a woman
Mhm.
alderperson. There we go. And just the changes that she's seen in Manitowoc County over the years, and the changes in the art scene, and actually kind of where they started with, and Mrs. West's Ruth West, her one of her first purchases was just from an art fair that Dolly and some of her friends put on
Oh, neat.
years and years and years ago down by the courthouse.
Yeah.
And of course, we all know that Ruth West's collection grew to include, I believe, a Georgia O'Keeffe piece,
Mhm.
and I mean, just phenomenal. And just the changes at the rahr-west Museum itself. It went from being a very small thing to it is uh, a destination now, and
Yeah.
they put on a lot of really, really good exhibits, and they are growing too, and they're branching out. So you're seeing a lot of growth in art um, throughout the county.
Mhm.
Another, one of the one of the things that she's very happy to see is that, you have Sheboygan, which the art culture down there is really pretty strong.
Mhm.
Manitowoc is booming. Two Rivers is getting up there. Mishicot is, their art scene is becoming stronger. And then
Right.
you have Algoma. So we're filling in the pockets along the lakeshore so that, let's say you're from Chicago and you take a drive up the lakeshore, there's a lot of places to stop, before you get to Door County. So
Mhm.
it's a destination. It's like an art destination that'll take you all the way up the lakeshore, and then you can go up to Door County and spend the big bucks, So
Nice. Nice.
and there's a lot up there, but it's become very commercial, very it's not what it used to be,
Sure.
you
Sure.
know. But we have a lot of charm in this area, that I'm preaching to the choir when it comes to that.
Well,
So
yeah, I'm all over that. Great.
yeah,
I think it's amazing what you've been able to do to kind of connect with the rest of the art community along the lakeshore here, and it's just really nice to see this area coming alive, and the arts and the economy go hand in hand. And I think the more that we do to connect people to creativity and ideas, that enriches all of us. So I mean, you can't minimize the importance of bringing the arts, to all of the towns around the area here.
right.
Um, so now I know that the Spittin Image 2020 event, that's just one of many events that you do. What else is coming up that we should know about?
Well, starting in, I think it's from September to October, it's in conjunction with the Lakeshore Artists Guild and the rahr-west Museum. Basil's will be exhibiting work for a show called What We Made.
Hmm.
And what that is it was a call to artists for artworks, 2D and 3D, photography, sculpture, um, textiles, whatever your medium is, anything made after March the 15th. So that was right when we were going into COVID.
Mhm.
There was a lot of rioting, there was a lot of upheaval in our country and in our society, and it was a scary time. People went through so many different emotions, and it shows in the artwork.
Mhm.
Um, and it's almost like there's different steps of grieving, different stages of grieving. There's different stages of emotion over the past couple of months with how people view our world today. It started off with a lot of fear and uncertainty and, you know, worry.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then but that evolves into like the next steps, and a lot, and for some people that I've talked to, their emotion now towards everything that's happened since the middle of March, they're verging on angry,
Mhm.
and not angry at anybody or any anything in particular, but just the fact that our world has been just the upheaval
Hmm. Hmm.
uh, and frustration. The fear has lessened. I mean, there's still a lot of concern, for health, but it's evolved into, well, look what it did to me financially. And so there, it's I can't go see my elderly parent except through a pane of glass, or somebody very close to me has passed away. I can't go to their funeral. What is how has this affected you? So for the artist, and I was really hoping when we first decided to do this, that it wasn't just going to be a completely depressing show,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
it's not. There's so many different emotions, but it's so strong. It's gonna be a very important show, um, because it's not just artists painting pretty pictures or, "Well, isn't that cute?" Or, "That's really clever." There's such meaning behind all these pieces, that I think that everybody can relate to. Yeah.
So Darla, there's another event. What's going on right now?
Well, right now it's over at the rahr-west, and it is the Manitowoc County Artists Exhibit, and it just opened on, well, yesterday was the first day, and that's going to go for a month. Um, I can't remember the end date. Go to the website for rahr-west, either that or Lakeshore Artists Guild, and you can get all of the dates. Um, for how long this event's gonna run. But anyway, it's an annual event, and it's open to all artists who are residents of Manitowoc County. So you have work that's at the RAR, um, by amateurs to seasoned professionals who are, like, world renowned. So you just run the gamut of ability, but all these different, and it's all 2D and 3D as well. And but it's just fascinating to see how people, what people come up with and what they create. And but that's kind of where, um, like, the amateurs kinda dip their toes in the water,
Hmm. Hmm.
and there's a lot of really talented people out there who don't realize their value or the fact that they are really talented. And this kinda but to see your work hanging in a museum for the very first time in your life, gives you some affirmation, and you hear the comments, and you hear the people talking about your work, and it just spurs you on to wanna do more. So it's such a wonderful thing. There's so many museums, in the country that, like, going to the, J. Paul Getty Museum out in Los Angeles. I
Hmm.
went there a couple times when I lived there, and I never went back because I didn't feel like I was being welcomed as
Hmm.
a guest. Um, I knew I was worthy to be there, not as an artist, but just to go and look at the exhibit, but it was so, elitist,
Yeah.
that it was uncomfortable. It was not a fun experience. So I went a couple times, saw some really cool artwork, and got the hell out. I saw
Yeah.
what I wanted to see and I left. Whereas with the RAR, it is so welcoming to everybody. It's for us, it's for the people. It's a wonderful place.
It is. It's a very warm environment, and they're very welcoming and they want to answer questions and have
Right.
conversations about the art. Um, I would say the same of your place too. So anyway,
Thank you.
um, that being said, I think we're going to do the interview with Darla and Dottie coming up right next. So sit back and enjoy.
I grew up in Manitowoc. Um, Actually, when I was in third grade, I believe it was, we moved to Custardale. My dad was employed at the shipbuilding company. And of course, that's when they were going to be building the submarines, for World War II. And so Custardale was a housing development that was the government put up for shipyard workers.
Okay.
And it was a community unto itself. you know, it was, you know, kids would play outside, and then, you know, you'd come in when it was time to eat, and then you'd go back out and didn't have anybody watching over you and worrying about, you know, don't cross the street and all that kind of stuff. So it was a real relaxed, open, fun kind of place to be raised. And then when I graduated from Lincoln in 1954. Well, I can go back a little bit. My mom and dad graduated from Lincoln High, and I graduated from Lincoln High, and my 3 children graduated from Lincoln High, and 3 of my grandchildren. So we kind of, you know, set the pace there. There was I'm the oldest of 7, so there was always somebody, you know, a Mangan. I was Mangan, and there was always one of us in every grade practically. So that was always fun too, because you had to live up to one another, you know.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, and then there were a couple black sheep in the family.
Oh, yeah. You weren't one of those.
I was not.
You were a good girl.
No, I waited till later.
Good for you.
So anyway, so I wanted to go into art. I really enjoyed art, and they had it was a 2-year campus over here, but they didn't have any art classes at that time, and so we didn't have the wherewithal for me to, you know, go away to college. But what I did was I lived with a family in Milwaukee for 2 years, and I, you know, babysat and, you know, kind of did whatever. And it was within walking distance of what is now UWM. When I started, it was Wisconsin State Teachers College.
Okay.
That was many years ago. But I was able to take all my art classes and also, you know, coming from a custodial unit, you know, with 3 bedrooms, we had 2 bathrooms at that time. But you know, and 9 of us, you know, 7 kids, my mom and dad. It was quite a difference for me to live with this family for 2 years down in Milwaukee. They lived right across from Villa Terrace in one of those big mansions.
Oh my.
And I had my 1 bedroom, my 1 bathroom, my 1 little sitting room.
Really?
And when I would come home, my mother would say, she'd say, I just, you know, it's such a change for you. She said, you know, and I said, yeah. And she says, she always felt, you know, like I would be missing all this good stuff there. And all I wanted her to do was fry up some onions, because this woman was very fastidious, and she didn't want the smell of fried onions in her house. And they used oleo too, and we always ate butter.
Sure.
So that's what I.
Well, everything is better with butter.
Absolutely. So that's what I would have, is a nice big mess of onions fried in butter. Anyway, that's my recollection from living
Sure.
with the other half. Anyhow, so then, so I was in all the art department was very small, and it turned out that Ron we were in all the same art classes. Well, first of all, I finished my freshman year, and he was in the service, and then he came back when I was starting my second year.
Oh, okay.
And he had already put in a year there before he was drafted into service.
Okay, what branch was he in?
The Army.
Okay.
Yeah. And he did, even in the Army, he did a lot of artwork. You know, he designed flyers and all that kind of stuff. And he always told me stories that weren't always accurate about what he did in the Army. It turned out, of course, that he never got out of the States. He was in Georgia and, most of the time. And he says, well, you never saw any commies in Georgia, did you? I said, no.
He was protecting the homeland.
Yeah, that's what he was. So anyway, we were in all the same art classes, and he was really fun. And like I say, the department was small, so we were all friends. And he belonged to a fraternity, and I was not a sorority girl.
Right.
And so his fraternity, they pair off with sororities, you know. And so I was left kind of out in the cold, but they had a vets club, and so these guys that got out of service there, so I, you know, be invited to their parties.
Okay.
And of course Ron would be there. And so one time he said, why don't you go to a vets party with me? And I said, sure, we had a good time. Then he took me to his fraternity parties, and we had a good time.
Okay.
And so we went on this particular date in November, and we had, like I say, we had been friends, for the whole year. And we got engaged on January 10th. So, it was very, everybody in Manitowoc thought I was engaged to a guy that I had been going with up here for 3 years.
Okay. Oh.
Anyway.
Oh, really?
So,
Okay.
so that was that. So Ron and I married for 61 years, and Ron stayed on and got his master's. I finished my BFA degree. Well, I graduated in June of 57, and Pat was born in July.
Okay.
So I was the first. I broke the way for,
Good for you.
pregnant women
Sure.
in college.
You and I had not known each other for very long, but just the sense of you as a person, you tell you're kind of you don't fit the mold.
No.
And it sounds like you never have, and bless you for that, because you've kind of helped pave the way for other women.
Well, I did, and being the oldest, of 7 children, I had a lot more responsibility, than if I would have been, one of 3 or something. So, and it wasn't that I had to fend for myself, but my mom was, when I look back, I think, how did she ever do it? And of course, she never worked, but she never drove a car. And I would take the kids on the bus,
Wow.
To the dentist. I did all that kind of stuff. I mean, I was only like 12 when I did
Right.
some of those things. I mean, I'd be taking the 6-year-old on the bus to go to the dentist.
Okay.
Well, now they don't let 12-year-olds go on the bus by themselves very much.
Right. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway, so you depending upon where your level is in a family, it determines a lot about how you develop and what. And my mom and dad were really, when we said we were going to get married, right before school started, they were just really upset and disappointed because they thought I would never finish.
Okay.
And, well, I did.
Right.
I did. And it was really, well, of course, I was the only, we had all these friends in the art department, and they just, when Pat was born, Patricia, they were all like godparents, you might say.
Sure.
Oh, I mean, they would just, bring her little dresses and, and Ron, when he got out of service, he bought a house. So we had this little bungalow on the east side, which was within walking distance of UWM. And he worked at the post office, and I worked at Heinemann's. Heinemann's was a really neat little candy and restaurant next to the bridge on Wisconsin Avenue.
Okay.
And so I would take the bus home, and he would work nights at the post office. I don't know what he did. He collected mail. I know that he lost his wedding ring and a bag of mail one time.
Oh.
Anyway, that's what he said. Where's your ring? Well, he said it was loose, and he was,
Sure.
this huge bag of mail he never found. So, but we were still married for 61 years.
Sure.
So
It didn't matter.
No. So anyway, but it was a good time. We stayed in Milwaukee for 3 years in that house, and then, well, I'm trying to read. It's hard to, go back 60 years.
Sure.
But anyway, my dad was on the Board of Education here in Manitowoc, and he called one day and he said that there was an opening in the art department. And so, Ron applied and got hired. A little nepotism, I suppose. I don't know.
Good.
Why not? So anyway, we moved to Manitowoc, and Ron just loved teaching here. He really did. But we were young, and there were other things that maybe there was another world out there, other things to do. And so there was a job opening at the Milwaukee Arts Center. It was a program teaching social studies through the arts.
Oh, wow.
And so he developed these lessons, or whatever you call them. He'd go to the schools with artwork from the collection at the Milwaukee Arts Center, and you know, whatever period of history they were studying at that time, you know. And he really liked that because he got into a lot of different schools and really enjoyed the kids. And he was a good teacher, you know. He was funny, and but in those days you didn't have to demand respect. A teacher got respect.
Right.
A little different than now. But anyway, he so then Mrs. Bradley gave a matching grant. They were going to put on this new edition, and so everybody's attention, everybody's energy was focused on fundraising.
Okay.
So that, I don't know how much it was. It was a big grant. In those days it was big. So Ron really didn't enjoy, you know, that
part of
aspect of it. And he missed the contact, you know, that he had with the kids all the time. So then the art department head here in Manitowoc, Agnes Laughlin, retired. And she was my art teacher when I was in high school. So she was long due to retire. So anyway, so Ron got the job and we came back here, and we're here ever since. So he always felt as if he had tried, you know, he had experienced enough different things to know that this is exactly what he wanted.
Right.
And he loved Manitowoc, really loved Manitowoc.
That's wonderful. Yeah, you have to be able to have, you know, a paradigm. You have to be able to compare, because there's so many times that somebody is born and raised in a location and they never experience any other areas.
Right.
And sometimes they don't realize just how good they have it.
Right.
You know, and you're not going to know that until you experience another area. So I mean, you guys you tried it and you learned what you actually valued.
Right, exactly.
So that's perfect.
I know. But you're so right. You know, I get such a kick out of people that probably haven't been any further than maybe Milwaukee. I don't know, but they complain about potholes here. You know, and you think, holy cow, you know, you haven't been when there's really potholes.
Right.
I mean, that's just one little example, but you know, you know, people should get out and, you know, broaden their horizons as much as they can. You know, just
absolutely.
So Ron had a real good career here, and then I stayed home with the children, if you can call it staying home. Ron was just really really exceptional. He never said I shouldn't do something, or are you going here again, or are you, you know, I was involved quite heavily in American Association of University Women, AAUW.
Okay.
And I got a state position. I was program chair, you know, for the state, and that entailed traveling to all the different branches. And so a friend of mine from Manitowoc also was involved, and so during the course of our tenure, we were supposed to visit every one of the branches, which there were about 72.
And that was statewide.
It was statewide.
Oh wow.
And she had 2 children, and you know, we always prepared a casserole or something, you know, and once in a while, you know, it would be an overnight thing depending upon how far we were.
Right.
But most of the time it was just a day thing. But we'd be on our way back home and we'd look at our watch and say, it's only 4 o'clock. Let's wait until after they're all fed and
oh yeah.
So then we would, you know, come in about, you know, 7 o'clock, 7:30. I know it'd be time to put the kids to bed. So.
Sure. Oh, sneaky. Good thinking.
Yeah, well, it's a good thing Ron's not here to hear all that.
Yeah, that's fun.
So anyway, so I was quite involved in AAW, and I also subbed. And I never taught full-time, but I did teach I subbed long-term for maternity leaves and that kind of thing. And I enjoyed that because I got in a lot of different schools. And I know one day we were having breakfast, and Ron was having coffee. I don't eat breakfast, but anyway, I said to him, I said, oh, tomorrow, I said, I'm gonna need some, what do you call it, the plaster Paris, like, you know, I don't know what I was gonna do with the kids. And he says to me, he said, well, you know the procedure. He says, fill out a slip, fill out a, you know, I mean, I never got treated any differently.
Sure.
And you know, but it was really kind of funny. I mean, it's two distinct lives, you know.
Sure.
And so, anyway, so I subbed a lot. And then, then while I was subbing, a friend of mine sold real estate. She said, you'd be good. She said, you'd really be good at selling real estate. So I took my real estate exam and passed it, so I sold real estate for 12 years.
Oh, wow.
And Ron always called it my hobby job because I never really made a big impression in the real estate.
That's a delicate way to put it, yes.
But it was fun. It was fun. And there again, I got to meet a lot of different people, and I could still sub and
Sure.
do that. And then, my dad was real active in community affairs.
Okay.
And I think that's where what made me interested. And the alderman from our district was, he took a job out of the district or something. Anyway, he wasn't going to run. And I was down at City Hall, and of course, I knew June Fetzer, who was the city clerk for 100 years. and Tony Dufek, was,
Okay.
and I knew Tony because I was on different committees at that time too. And of course he knew my dad. And he happened me down in the lobby area in the old City Hall. And he said, Dolly, he said, why don't you take out your papers, for alderman? And I said, well, what do I have to do? He says, you don't have to do anything. So while we're talking, June is filling out and getting my papers all prepared.
Oh my gosh.
And Tony says, he said, all you have to do is get all these signatures and that's it. So, but there were four guys that took out their papers too, because this was, we weren't running against an incumbent or anything.
Right.
So there were these four guys and me, and my mom and we went door to door, and the districts over the years. Now I got elected in '89, so in that time, first of all, went from 12 aldermen to 10.
Okay.
And the districts have, the boundaries have changed quite a bit, depending upon, of course, the population
Sure.
change. But, so my mom went door to door with me too, and everybody, in those days I didn't have gray hair, but my mom did. So, they like that lady come in, and
Sure.
So what really spurred me on, like I say, I went door to door, and about 3 weeks before the election, and I won't name names because he's become a friend and he's still in town, so I don't want to embarrass him.
Sure.
But anyway, he sent me an invitation to his victory party, and I thought,
That's
he
presumptuous,
was so
isn't it?
sure. He was, well, I beat him by a lot. And he called me up and he says, that was the dumbest thing I ever did. And I said, you got that right.
That's funny.
So anyway, and of course the terms were for 2 years, so I was on for 18 years, which meant I went through 9 elections.
Right.
But most of those times I was not challenged. But I still went door to door because I told the people, I don't need your vote because nobody's running against me now this year.
Okay.
But next year maybe I will, and next time
Right.
I want you to know that I'm here.
Right.
And it was the most rewarding 18 years.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And I was the only woman on the council.
Okay, good for you.
Yeah. And I got on the first year, and there was an issue about the coal transloading, and people complained, of course, about the coal dust and all that stuff.
Sure.
And I don't remember exactly how the vote went. Well, I know how it went because I was the only one that voted in favor of them still being allowed to do that.
Okay. Oh.
And the other people, the 11 others voted against it because that's what they thought everybody wanted. But they hadn't looked into the issue at all, and part of the reason I voted for it is because if you have to have a certain amount of river traffic, you know, otherwise the Army Corps of Engineers won't keep it dredged. So here we got Burger Boat up there,
Right.
and what were they going to do if they couldn't get, you know,
That's right.
get their yachts in and out? And not only that, but who was going to pay for it if the federal government
That's
didn't?
right.
So anyway, so I voted in favor of it, and of course afterwards, you know, more people found out about the issue, you know, why.
Right.
And one of the aldermen says to me, he says, Dolly, you're the only person on the council with any balls.
Ballsy Dolly.
So anyway, I didn't know if that was.
That was probably the best compliment ever.
Yeah. So anyway, so those
Gosh.
were interesting times. I enjoyed it immensely.
It's challenging
Yeah.
and very rewarding, but
Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes it can lead to sleepless nights. I'm on my second term right now, and
Yeah.
I had taken a year off for when I opened up Basil's,
Mm-hmm.
and I just really needed that time just to focus.
Mm-hmm.
But I stayed on committees, and it was
Right.
like once you've been bitten by the bug, it's hard to just turn it off.
Exactly, because first of all, you know, you think, well, what did they do that for? Why did they make that decision? You know, if I was there, I would be. You know?
Right.
And so it does. It gets into in your blood. It
Right.
really does. You know.
You know, one thing I found too is that, and I had worked for the city in public works engineering,
Oh, okay.
and you know, and I understand how a city runs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like you don't flush the toilet and magically everything just disappears. It actually there's a
Yeah,
a process.
Yeah.
So over time for working for the city, especially public works, I learned how the city functions, which has come in very, very well.
Mm-hmm.
But by the same token, it's very easy to be a Monday morning quarterback and say, well, they should have done this, or why did they do that?
Right.
And part of my impetus for running the first time was I was going to change the world,
Mm-hmm.
because city council just didn't know what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I won, I got on, and it was like, oh, rules and regulations. Oh, the state has rules that we have to follow, you know.
Sure.
And then it was like, and then you learn the politics and
Yes.
how, and
Yes.
then that's when the light bulb goes on.
Yeah.
And having to work within the parameters is an art in itself.
It is.
But it's doable.
It's very doable, and I found out. Well, my dad always says to me, he unfortunately he didn't live long enough to see me. He would have been really thrilled,
Sure.
and but he always would say, first of all, listen. He started at the shipbuilding company, and then when he retired, he was human resources, what they call human resources
Right.
now. But he was like safety and
Oh, wow.
engineer, whatever. But he personnel,
Okay, yeah.
and they never had a strike when he was there because he always listened. And he told me a couple different things over the years, and you know, he said he one time this very irate worker came in and was complaining about everything, and you know, and my dad sat there and listened, and he says to him, he says, you know, he said, I wouldn't blame you one bit. He said, if you would just turn in your resignation now. He said, I wouldn't blame you one bit. He said,
Right.
well, the guy didn't. He
wasn't
expect that. He
expecting
wasn't
that.
going to know. So he, you know, calm down. But you know, that's like the Irish say. What is it? You know, if you can, I think it's Irish diplomacy, is the ability to tell somebody to go to hell, that they welcome the trip. Something like that. So anyway,
Oh, that's awesome.
so
Well, let me ask you. Now you had Patricia back in '59.
50. That would have been 58, and
In
then
'58.
yep, and then Michael was born in 59,
Okay.
and then we figured out where children come from, and we had another one 3 years later.
Okay. So you've got 3 children.
3 children, yes.
Okay.
And Pat has 3 boys. So she is Alex, Ben, and Christopher. And I said, the alphabet's got 26 letters. I thought, let's not go crazy.
Yeah.
And the oldest one, the middle one, just graduated from Madison.
Okay.
And her youngest, Chris, just graduated from Nicolay High School
Awesome.
in north of Milwaukee.
Okay.
Box
Oh, that's
Point.
fantastic.
And so those 3, they're just in their starting out years. They've
Right.
got the whole blank canvas in
Right.
front of them.
With challenges that you and I
Well,
never had. I mean, I can't imagine. Yeah.
And they're all self-sufficient young men.
Good.
And I told them how to vote. So that's taken care of.
Are they listening to Grandma?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes. I got them kind of interested in politics.
Okay.
So that's good. And then, those are Pat's 3. And then Michael has 3. He's got 2 daughters and a son.
Oh, gosh.
And the 2 daughters, both of them are nurses. And they're both in Hawaii.
Really?
And Alyssa, the oldest, has a 18-month-old daughter, so I'm a great-grandma.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, and she's just adorable. And I've been over there twice to visit, but
Okay.
now, of course, they were supposed to be here this month, and, of course,
That's
they're not traveling.
Right.
So, life is just on hold,
It is.
So when people complain, I say, look at the big picture, and life is too short to be picky about small things.
Right. Yeah. And pick your battles.
Yeah, exactly.
Expend your energy on things that really, really matter.
Right.
And it just seems like, and I think people are just fatigued, but they are just so quick to judge others and so quick to argue
Mm-hmm.
or name call.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like that a year ago,
No.
You could see things kind of changing as people became a little bit more bold behind a computer screen.
Mm-hmm.
That I think that's kind of where the way we treat each other started to change. But now it's just like we got to stick together. But people have changed. But behavior, everything is cyclical. We will eventually go back to a time or to, become a time again where we are civil and we treat each other with respect and love, because this can only go on for so long.
Exactly. And I think part of it, and it just makes you really sick at heart, really, is the politics that are being played. It's not Democrat or Republican or Independent. It's all of us in this terrible, terrible time together.
Right.
And picking people apart, calling names, or wear a mask or not wear a mask, depending upon, it doesn't
Right.
have a place
Right.
here, but you're right, you can go on Facebook, you can say anything, you can do anything.
And you're anonymous. You're
Right.
lobbing grenades.
Exactly. Exactly. So anyway, so I feel bad. I keep on thinking, I won't be around, to see how this all plays out. And I think that, the children now, because they're all young adults. My third son, no, he lived in California for
Okay.
35 years. He married a girl from California.
What
and
part?
they have
What part of California?
San Diego.
Oh, okay.
They lived in San Diego for a long time.
Okay.
And he was with the McDonald Corp. He still is.
Okay.
But the traveling got to him. He had a really big district, and he would be driving to LA, and he'd call me. That's when I got my calls from him. When he
Okay.
was stuck in traffic.
Which was like constant. Yeah.
He'd say, "Mom, I'm only 15 miles from home. It's going to take me another 40 minutes to
That's
get there."
right. Yeah.
And so, to make a long story short, and they have one son.
Okay.
and Nicholas. And Nicholas now is 22. He's very autistic. And so to make a long story short, Mike Butch decided that we always call him Butch, he's Ron Jr., that
Okay.
he decided he had California, and they couldn't afford to buy a house. I mean, well, nobody needs a big house like this, but just an ordinary 3-bedroom ranch would be, $600,000-$700,000.
Right.
And so then the company, the McDonald's company he was with the franchise with the company, but an individual bought out a lot of the stores, and
Okay.
he really wasn't, he didn't like that so much. So he said, well, now is the time to make the move. And he's still with McDonald's,
Okay.
but it's an owner that has stores in this area. So he could, he told them, he said he wanted to make Manitowoc his
Very good.
jumping off place.
Sure.
And so now, so they're here. And
Oh, how nice for you.
so that's wonderful. So my son is, Michael, with the 2 daughters in California and a son here.
Right.
So my family is all around me, which is really nice.
That is tremendous.
To go back a little bit, I had, said how we ended up back here in Manitowoc.
Right.
And when we were in Milwaukee, they had this Bonneville Art Fair, and then of course Ron was always active in the Lakefront Festival of Arts.
Okay.
And so when we came back to Manitowoc, we joined the rahr-west, which was the
Okay.
rahr Civic Center at that time. But a little gallery. It was a art organization that went on for years and years and years here in Manitowoc. And I can't remember when it disbanded, probably about 20 years ago. Because all the people that were original members were all dead.
Right. Right.
And when Ron and I joined, we were, among the youngest. But we started the Courthouse Square Art Fair. And,
Oh, okay.
and that went on for years and years. And that was really, really interesting. We got in on kind of the ground floor, you might say, of, before art fairs were popped up all over the place. So we had a really good array of artists that applied just from the whole Fox River Valley, and then we had friends in Milwaukee that we contacted.
Sure.
And we got the snow fencing from the county, and a committee, loose committee.
Right.
And that's the paintings were hung on the fencing.
Yeah.
It was really nice. And so we ran that for probably about 20 years,
Oh,
maybe
wow.
19, 20 years.
And art fairs are so fun.
They are. But then more sophisticated art fairs came along, bigger ones, like,
Yeah.
I don't know, Appleton had one. There were a lot of them. And so artists had their choice of where they
Sure.
wanted to go. And not only that, but, when you do something long enough, it gets to be old.
Right.
And and then people were busy, and of course, husbands and wives working,
Right.
and there was a time in my time that, the women didn't have to have 2 jobs.
That's right.
But so to make a long story short, we said this is long enough. We thought, a lot of people bought a lot of art, and that was a breakthrough. Instead of going to whatever. Well, Hobby Lobby wasn't around then, but
Right.
a
A lot
buy
of times
something.
it was furniture stores.
Yeah.
You'd get your art from
You
the
get-
furniture
right,
store.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
So Mrs. West got started her collection with a painting that she bought at the Courthouse Square Art Fair.
Really?
It was a Mike Kazar painting, and he's from Two Rivers, and
Okay.
yeah, and so like I say, she went on to bigger and better
Okay.
things, like George O'Keeffe,
Yeah. You can't. But you know, right place, right time, and to have the eye
Right.
for it too, and
Yeah.
and the passion.
Mm-hmm.
And well, I know what is it? West of the lakes,
Mm-hmm.
west of the lake, and they uncovered
Oh, that mural.
the mural in her. It was her breezeway or her garage.
In her garage. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who'd have thought?
Exactly.
You
No,
know.
so she really changed the whole direction really
Right.
of the the rahr-west, which is of course named
Right.
after her and her husband. But
So you've seen a lot of changes
yes, I have.
in just the way art is perceived and appreciated and promoted and enjoyed.
Well, it's so wonderful. It's so wonderful to to see all the galleries that are opened up. I mean, there wasn't an art gallery in town or in any Door County, of course,
Right.
and of course Milwaukee, but along the lakeshore there really wasn't anything. Now look what we're
There's
blessed
more.
with.
Right. And there's more. And I know that that the art scene is, especially in Manitowoc, the city of Manitowoc, is starting to burgeon. It's
Mhm.
really, it's gaining momentum, and we're trying to duplicate in our own fashion that in Two Rivers
Mhm.
too. And you've got these pockets like Algoma has a tremendous
Oh.
focus on art.
They do.
You
Yes.
know, and Mishicot now is starting to promote it more, and there's more available art wise. So it's like filling in these little pockets along the lakeshore so that we're all on board. Sheboygan,
Mm-hmm.
there's so it just takes so much time, to finally. But without Manitowoc having what it has and the history,
Right.
a lot of this wouldn't even be possible. It wouldn't even be on their radar.
Exactly. What it did, of course with Ruth, acquiring all the art that she did, and making it popular. When we moved here and we joined that group, little gallery, we met in homes, and lo and behold, I mean, this is years ago, of course, but everybody, whoever the hostess was, would have tea, coffee and tea, and have a tea service,
Sure.
and we wore white gloves,
Okay. Yeah.
and like I say, Ron and I were the youngest people. These were,
Right.
Nash and Fricky, all those names.
Right.
But and that I still have that silver service, and I don't know. I think I paid $55 for it or something, because when it was my turn to have the meeting, I didn't have one.
Right.
I think I paid it off in 2 installments too.
Okay. Yeah.
You
But
know?
that was
Yeah.
the getting together was it was more formal, but it was also more of an event.
It was.
So
But that was one of the things that that I think that we finally have accomplished is, at the rahr-west in particular. I've been on the board there for 100 years.
long time.
But is to make people realize that it's a facility for everyone.
Yeah.
And when we met, little gallery met, and had these teas and that, it really drew the line between, somebody down the street and then somebody who's, going
Right.
to the rahr-west.
Right.
Well, it was just the Rahr Civic Center at that time.
Okay.
But so I think that's one of the things that's so wonderful, is that it opened it up to people feel comfortable there now.
It's
They
for
do.
every man. It's not
for everyone.
elitist, which
No,
like
that's
I was raised in Los Angeles, and I remember going to various museums, one of which was the Getty.
hmm
And you walk in there and it was like I never felt comfortable. I didn't feel like I was worthy of being in this place. And a lot of it was just the attitude towards you. If you were the right kind of person, you were okay.
Otherwise, you didn't belong.
Exactly.
You know.
But I never have ever gotten that sense from the rahr-west. Ever. And I mean,
Yeah.
you know, like right now, people have dropped off their work for the annual Manitowoc County Artist Exhibit.
Yeah.
That is for everyone, from amateur to somebody who is internationally known.
Exactly.
How cool is that?
It is, and that makes me feel sad. You know, because Ron, always entered that.
Right.
And a couple times he would enter things that, I would say, what are you thinking? I mean, there were
honey.
There was it must be about 4 years ago, and he entered 2 paintings. Oh, and I just maybe it was just me that I bought,
Sure.
And I don't have them now, so he must have sold them.
Okay. They were okay.
Yeah. But that's how Ron was. I mean, he painted such a variety of styles and media and whatever. And one thing that he couldn't paint is animals. I don't know. Well, rabbits. Oh, he could paint those. He could paint rabbits. He could paint rabbits. But a woman called one day and asked if he would do a portrait of her dog. And he said, sure. I mean, he would never say, I don't think I can do that.
Right.
Never. And the dog ended up looking like a pig.
Oh, really?
It was the funniest. Well, of course, I mean, we just laughed about it, and and so then he said, now if you would have called me and said, could I paint your dog? He said, I could have done that. He said, what color? I would have said, what color do you want me to paint it?
Sure. Oh, how funny.
But anyway, we had experiences like that, and that's what kept us good friends and everything for 61 years. He was funny.
Oh, I think that's wonderful. I never had a chance to meet him, but I feel very fortunate that I've had a chance to meet you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, this has been it's been such a treat.
I majored in fabric weaving and printmaking. Well, of course, and Ron, the first year we were married, he bought me a loom, and that's what I majored in at UWM. So every semester, I had a semester of weaving, and so those things are long gone. I mean, I experimented. You know, it wasn't just like weaving carpets.
Right.
But one thing I do have here yet, and I won't even. I mean, it's yardage. It's wool yardage.
Okay.
And it was enough for a suit or whatever I wanted to make out of it. And it's beautiful. But I never made anything out of it because I kept buying patterns, and then I would look at the pattern and I would think, well, now this is going to go out of style or whatever. So I just
never got into it. Right.
And I still have it. And I
Right.
don't know, maybe they can line my coffin with it or something. I don't know.
Something with a quilt, or something.
Yeah, or something that I could. Well, that's an idea I could, or even a small baby quilt for each of the great granddaughters.
I like that.
That would be nice. That would be nice.
And it will get used and reused.
Yeah.
And it's not going to go out of style.
No.
Oh gosh, what a treasure.
That would be neat. Then I branched out into wall hangings.
Okay.
Because there you could really use your imagination and do whatever you felt like. And then I let the loom alone for a while, and then I just had a frame with the nails on the top and the bottom. And then I used all kinds of organic stuff, weeds, and of course that stuff doesn't last.
Right. Yeah, it's very temporary.
And so I really, and the few wall hangings that I had, I might have a couple yet, but those were ones I did on the loom, and but that's what I did.
Okay.
I was not a good. I did a little bit of painting.
Okay.
But I was
See, I made the assumption that
Yeah, I was not a painter.
okay, that you did a lot of watercolors or a lot of
Yeah,
acrylics
no,
or oils or so
no.
you went in a totally different direction that was actually I would think was a little bit, you were ahead of your time.
Yeah.
It probably wasn't the textiles probably wasn't as appreciated
No.
back then as it is now as an
Right.
art form.
Right. Well, and that's the thing, and that's what was so much fun, because colors, and that's what I really just love. And I just had such a good time putting colors together that normally weren't used together
Right.
years ago, and different, all kinds of, ribbons, and one time I tie-dyed all
Oh my gosh.
of the work. And so then when I wove it, I mean, the patterns were,
How cool.
and I just used store string. That was
Okay.
fun. I don't know what I did with that. But
Okay.
it was-
Yeah.
but it was fun. It was fun to do that kind of stuff.
I think that's wonderful. Well, I'm glad that I've had a chance to see some of your work too, because you don't know that during the time frame that you were having, you were having your kids and raising them.
Yeah.
Did everything get backburnered? No, you were involved in a lot of different
Yeah.
things, and a lot of women, I think, put themselves aside
Right.
to focus on hearth and home, which is admirable, but you lose yourself.
Right.
You never lost yourself.
No.
Oh.
I felt lost sometimes. I thought, what am I doing?
But you did it in a very nice fashion too.
So, well, I just, first of all, to do all of the things, the real estate and the council and all this stuff, you have to enjoy people, and I
Right.
really do.
What was your secret to putting up with people who were just unreasonable and didn't want to listen to the good things, and focus on the negative? How did you handle that?
Well, there were a couple of people. Usually, people that would. I always had the same people complaining about the same kind of things,
Right.
about the garbage isn't being picked up, and they're dumping all the snow in front of my house, and all that. And finally, you get to the point you think, do I need their vote?
Okay, yeah, right.
And this one guy, he complained all the time because he was getting car fire smoke on his porch. He lived over on South Lake Drive, and I told him, I said, why don't you move?
Exactly. Right.
But most of the time, you just have to let it go in one ear and out the other.
It's hard sometimes.
It is.
Sometimes it's not so bad, but
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you know what I find kind of sad is that if you do have good news to share, it's almost as if, and it is just a percentage of a fraction of the population, where it's like they don't want to hear the good stuff.
No.
They want to, they're I guess happy being miserable.
Exactly. The glass is always half empty.
Right.
Always half empty. Somebody was telling me, I was saying, I think our downtown looks beautiful. No, it really, really does. And they were complaining because, we've got those cement flower boxes now.
Yeah.
Well, so this woman, now she has to really be careful about where she parks her car, because if she opens up her door, she's going to hit, those boxes, those cement. She said, what was the purpose of that? I said, well, just pull your car up farther. I said, it's beautiful.
Right.
It's beautiful. And then this guy about the potholes, Washington Street. He's complaining about Washington Street being so bad. And he says, but instead of taking care of Washington Street, he says, what do? They spend it on flowers and, And I said, well, first of all, Washington Street is a highway, federal highway. So, I said, unless we can tackle it ourselves and pay for it.
Right.
Otherwise, we have to wait for federal money, and we have to wait,
Right.
And I said, but as far as flowers go, I said, enjoy them.
Oh, absolutely.
But there are people that they just like to complain.
They do. And it's just it kind of wears on you after
It
a while,
does.
especially after a long day, and it's like, oh my god, it's almost like we can't do anything right.
Well, you know what?
Who cares?
The other thing, I shouldn't even say that I did this, but I didn't do it very often. But if you couldn't, people go on and on, and I'd hold the telephone way away. I said, your signal is fading. Your signal is fading. And I'll say, I'm not getting your signal. You'll have to call me back or whatever, or I'll call you back.
Oh, all these little tricks of the trade. Well, that's the only way you keep your sanity,
Exactly.
I think.
Exactly.
Oh, but
and then I'd have a Manhattan, never saw one.
yeah, that or your Guinness.
Yeah. My goodness.
But then you have all of a sudden, out of the blue, you'll get a phone call, and it's somebody who is happy with something that's happened.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, what a rewarding feeling!
It is. It is.
It's wonderful.
And it has to be. You have to be happy and satisfied with what you've done,
Right.
and you have to even if nobody appreciates it, which sometimes they don't, you have to know that you did the right thing. And that's one thing that I wish that well, especially here, we have the districts. You have in Two Rivers, you have the
We're at large, yeah.
at large. But when I would vote on something, my district, of course, was unique. I always said I only district in America. They had a submarine and a car ferry and all
Okay,
these
sure.
things. But I always looked at what is good for the city as a whole, and
Right.
not just for my district, because there's districts that had more elderly people than and so their complaints would be different.
Right.
And Lord knows, some of the issues here were much more important, but not to them.
That's right. Right.
So you had to balance. It was, not easy.
No, challenging, but totally rewarding.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for this interview. Has just been wonderful.